Hi, welcome to the Boxing Podcast. I'm Gary McCosker. Trevor, unfortunately, is not here today. It's going to be a little bit of a solo pod. Daniel and I, producer Daniel, as you guys know from listening to prior episodes, we're going to talk a little bit about what has recently gone down as it was set to be a big fight between Anthony Joshua and Jarrell Big Baby Miller. And recently, in the matter of the last 2 days, we're recording this on Thursday, so you'll hear this on Tuesday, but the fight has been canceled. Miller got caught with a performance-enhancing drug. It's one that I hadn't heard about. We're going to go into it a little bit in this episode. So the topic of the day is drugs in sports, drugs in boxing, and the fight that fell apart. So Daniel, I'm excited about having a conversation with you today.
Okay, so let's get started.
Let's talk.
Well, first off, how does this affect Joshua?
Well, now,
because this whole thing about him fighting, all these different people.
So there's an opportunity. He's got to find a new opponent, right? And it's 6 weeks out, so potentially it could be anyone because that's enough time for a camp, right? And anyone who's at that level of a possible Joshua opponent would be in the gym anyway. Whether or not you started your specific camp for your opponent, you're still gonna be in the gym. And if you're on vacation right now, you weren't gonna be possible. So, Chancey fights Luis Ortiz.
Who do you think wins there?
Joshua probably, but that would
unless Luis connects, right?
Right. There's a chance. He's powerful, and honestly, that would be a better look, I think, for Joshua because Joshua, I like Joshua.
How old's Joshua?
He's pretty young. Let me look him up.
Because Ortiz is what, 3 times his age?
Yeah, Ortiz is old. He's a Cuban. He's
75 years old. He's a fossil. I mean, okay, so let me ask you, because Ortiz tagged Wilder a few times in that fight, to the point where you're like, how the hell is Wilder still standing, right?
Yeah, 29. So that's fairly young.
Yeah, so Ortiz is twice his age, twice his weight, and twice his age.
Ortiz also has a history of he got caught with a banned substance too. It's funny how forgiving the sport of boxing is.
Is it funny?
The funny part is that it's not funny. It shouldn't happen, but
why not?
Why does are you of the camp that kind of a libertarian point of view? They should just open up drugs and it should be available to anyone as long as everyone's using them.
I mean, I'm not in the ring getting my head smashed in, right? Yeah. And unless you are, I think the fighters are the ones who decide that. Because if everyone's doing it, because that's the argument a lot that gets thrown around all the time, right? Then they must not.
Not necessarily in boxing, but I feel like that's the argument in cycling. Almost everyone's doing EPO.
I feel like
everyone's doing.
I feel like
blood doping.
Yeah, I mean, but what do you feel though? It's just outright ban.
And I think in boxing, since the only sport I'm close enough to have a true opinion of, I would say I would never endorse a drugs only policy. If you were to do it in cycling, go for it. But it's not really my spot to talk about it. But no, in boxing, I want drugs to be kept out of it because we also have this other thing where we have weight classes. So if you had if we lived in a world where like cycling, I'm not sure, but like cycling, I think there's like one division, right? There's the disciplines, but everyone's an elite male or elite female in one division, and that's you do the race, boom. So and everyone's a specific body type. They're all skinny little jockeys. So if they all want to do EPO, that's level playing field. Problem is, we don't have just the heavyweight division. If boxing were a sport where it was just the heavyweight division, i.e. it was just a one division thing, which de facto it would be one division, it would be heavyweights because everyone would be able to weigh in as the same. Then I could just see a situation where everyone could do steroids and it wouldn't matter because everyone's doing them. But part of, I don't know, you're not going to be able to do steroids and make 135 if you're a lightweight, right?
Then maybe you don't have a 135 division.
But you should, because that's some of the best athletes are down there in the lower weight classes.
Well,
that's part of why I like boxing. That's part of why I found boxing, because as a small dude that's 5'8", I found a sport that works for me because I'm not going to be a linebacker for Notre Dame. It's just not going to happen. So
Rudy made it.
Rudy made it, yeah. I love it.
But let's go back to the Ortiz thing.
Yeah.
So if he fights Joshua, you think that's the best possible outcome of this whole
situation?
That's
what I would like to see, yeah, for sure. Let me see if Ortiz was in camp for somebody, but that would be a bigger fight for...
And let's say Ortiz wins, for whatever reason, he beats Joshua. How bad does that fuck everything up for everybody?
Does it fuck it up for everybody? No, I don't think it fucks it up. Because
Deontay already beat Ortiz.
Deontay beats Ortiz, yeah.
So that rematch, I don't know if that would ever happen again, right?
You know who I would like to see is Dillian White against Anthony Joshua.
Why?
Because I think he deserves it. He's been barking at him for a while. He is also a British citizen. I'm sure they would sell out. The problem is that this fight's supposed to be in New York. This fight was supposed to be in, I think it was at Barclays. So
what, to test his pull?
Big Baby is a Brooklyn guy.
Is it to test his pull for when he inevitably fights Deontay to see how well he would?
To test the waters.
I mean,
his first time. I believe it was his Welcome to America tour. It was his first time in the U.S.
Doesn't Deontay fight from out of Brooklyn or out of New York at least?
Deontay has. I don't know if Deontay's fought in New York. I think he has.
Oh, he's not from New York though.
Deontay's from Alabama.
Oh, then never mind.
No, Big Baby Miller's from Brooklyn though.
This is why I don't talk on the podcast.
That's fine.
I'm talking about.
Oh, it's good.
What did he get?
You need to come to America to make money. Typically, that is starting to change. In
Ask Eddie
Great
Murphy.
Britain.
That's why they made that movie, right?
Right.
Coming to America.
Right. Exactly. It's true for Latin American fighters. It's true for fighters from Asia, from Africa, from Europe. Typically, like Eastern Europe, for example. Because let's face it, in Ukraine,
it's just cold.
You have all the talent, but you ain't. It's as lucrative as being a fighter from Colombia. You need to come to America to make your money. We have talent and stars coming out of those countries, but they come and do it here. Anthony Joshua has had great success selling out stadiums such as O2 Arena, Wembley. But if he were to come to America and have a new opponent, the promoters are going to need somebody that's big. Now, this is a DAZN fight. Should it be, if it were to be Ortiz is Golden Boy. DAZN and Golden Boy are already working together.
Oh,
are already working
happen.
together.
It could happen.
So it seamlessly would work. Matchroom and DAZN have a partnership. Golden Boy, DAZN have a partnership.
The Joshua fight was going to be on DAZN?
The Joshua fight, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Anthony Joshua was like one of the first big stars that DAZN got on board.
I mean, so
and
it
let
sense.
it fug. It would make sense in that regard.
So they're not going to cancel it outright?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think they're still looking for an opponent. And if this comes out on Tuesday and I'm already behind on the news,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. But Anthony Joshua, let's face it, even if it gets pushed back, Anthony Joshua is the champion. He has the WBA belt, he has the IBF belt, and the WBO belt. They're going to need to find an opponent for him. I don't know who would have the set of mandatory, but it's I mean,
are you disappointed?
Yeah.
Were you looking forward to
I was looking forward to this fight, yeah.
Why? What was it? What about it was like appealing to you?
It was going to be free on DAZN.
Okay. Well, not free. $9.99.
$9.99 a month, basically free. And I was starting to get behind Big Baby Miller.
Which is important, right? Because he's the A side, clearly.
Joshua's the A side, and I mean, DAZN have been putting a lot of production into a lot. You know, the backstory. They're doing a great job of and I'm actually watching that stuff because I'm, into it. But they went to his neighborhood and they talked with him and they did the. Apparently he's a rapper, which I think is funny because I remember when we talked about on this podcast, Anthony Joshua rapped on like a radio morning show. Mm-hmm. But Baby Miller is actually, I think he has done some rapping. Like he's a Renaissance man. He actually maybe puts out tracks. And then anyway, long story is that DAZN did a good piece on it, and I thought it was cool. And I was looking forward to watching this fight. I think it was going to be a big fight. I didn't see him having any shot against Joshua. I think Joshua is going to win that fight easily. Not easily, but all my money is on Joshua to win that fight. But it's just disappointing that when you pay $9.99 a month, you want to see at least one big fight a month on DAZN. I mean, this is I think it's supposed to be a June 1st fight, so they still got time to do it. But the idea being, some of the stars you pay to see is Canelo.
Isn't it funny
Joshua?
How you're basically paying a Netflix subscription, which is way better than any paper. Like, you buying a year's worth of DAZN, how many big fights normally would there be in a year? Canelo fights once or twice a year?
Twice a year at this point for sure. He's gonna get the two Mexican.
He's the biggest boxer. You wouldn't argue that, right?
Yeah.
In terms of pay-per-view buys and all that stuff.
No
longer pay-per-view buys, but prior to DAZN.
But he is the biggest. Yeah, he is the money in the sport.
Who else would you say is after that?
As far as
who would you turn in normally before this is pre-DAZN days? Like, who would you tune into for a pay-per-view?
Okay, so I would tune in for
and not
more guys than most, but I think if we're gonna back up and say who would mainstream, who would be buy-worthy, Canelo is a guy who Deontay Wilder is a guy who people would tune in for. Adrian Broner is a guy who people would tune in for. I can't wait until he falls off the face of the earth because I'm tired of him.
Let's just say at least 6 fights a year.
At least 6 fights a year,
which is like $300 minimum pay-per-view. So your DAZN subscription is less than that, and you're already making complaints. You're already making demands.
Yeah, I want at least one good. Yeah. I'm all about value, man. I just want to get a bang for my buck.
I get it.
And Anthony Joshua is one of the guys that me, and you, if you bought DAZN, is one of the guys you bought in for.
Absolutely.
So you want to see him fight.
They know that too, which is why they probably won't cancel it. You're saying.
Yeah, they will find somebody. They got 6 weeks to find. Well, they don't have 6 weeks to find somebody, but
Is it really that difficult?
No, it's not.
And
this happens in boxing all the time. Fighters fall out at every level of the sport. Some of it's the kind of dirty trickery of the business where maybe they never have an opponent for you, and then it's like, oh, we need to find a new opponent, and then they're throw you a guy, else. And that's the story that you're getting as the guy who didn't know he was the B side, but you found out you were the B side because you had no representation, and you were just some guy that whatever. But yeah, this happens all the time because you're thinking about it's a 1v1 sport, so there's one major like person on each team of this sport. So if that one person has one injury, one financial dispute,
and since boxing
legal dispute,
it's such a
it cancels the whole event.
You can't lose in boxing and
you can't lose it. And boxing less forgiving. That's something I do like about. You're more of a UFC guy than I am.
Absolutely, and every time every time we talk boxing, I always bring that up.
Yeah,
you can't lose in boxing, which I think is ridiculous.
Yeah,
because you lose, you get better. Like, why wouldn't you want the best fighters in the world to lose once? Because you show it. I think it shows their character.
And back in the day, that used to be more.
Like, look at Canelo. His one loss. Arguably, you could say 2 or 3, depending on how you feel about Triple G.
Yeah.
But Floyd, he hasn't looked any better. I mean, in my opinion, he's just gotten better, right? Since the Floyd loss.
Canelo's gotten a lot better since.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. He was a young man in that.
And
fight
imagine
too.
imagine if he knocked out Floyd, how much that would have
His
done for his
progression wouldn't have. Yeah.
I mean, it's all speculation.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
No, but a loss makes you better is what you're saying. You're absolutely right. It's sad that the sport of boxing and the fan base and the culture.
It's like the
wants to throw you out.
The Tyson Fury and the
you're
Wilder
damaged
fight.
goods and want to throw you out because you lost the fight. Well, look at Tevin Farmer, and this is why I love Tevin Farmer. Tevin Farmer lost I think 2 or 3 out of his first five or 6 fights, and he was learning on the job. He wasn't an early prospect hype job that was being built up, given a very padded career, which happens in this sport because the financial incentive to protect that perfect record is there. But he was not one of those guys. He was a guy. He was he ended up becoming a champion. But I mean, if you're an old school fan and you don't like the
I like the story like that though.
Yeah, everyone does. If you don't,
it happens
then
all the time.
You're a fool.
It just happened. It just happened last week at UFC.
In UFC, yeah. Who would happen?
Dustin Poirier, that's his name. He won a belt, and he'd been fighting. I think he has 23 or 24 fights in the UFC, which is a lot. That's a lot without having
in the UFC, but
UFC proper.
Yeah. So he had already come up through a small organization, smaller shows.
Yep, and then without one title shot, and to fight 23 times or however many 20. Let's just say it's 20. You got to be winning. You're not undefeated.
And those are bigger paydays because UFC is the top promotion in that entire world.
Absolutely.
So if you're getting,
he just won his title. That's what I'm saying. He just
on his
won.
first opportunity to get a title.
But everyone's behind him now. You know, he was a kind of unknown person, which is kind of the downside of the UFC right now. It's because of Conor, because of Ronda. If you're not
they put their eggs in one basket so a couple times in a row, and each one of those kind of fell off.
For different reasons.
Yeah.
But what did Baby Miller get busted for, to go back to steroids, because that's what this conversation is supposed to be about.
Okay. So
what?
So not steroids per se, but a PED.
Did he go down to Mexico and have some carne asada with Canelo's team? Is that what it was? Or?
All right, so here's from an article on Forbes.com, because that's what I found it on, and that's a trusted source, right?
Of boxing information.
The best boxing information on Forbes.com, All right, so here is the drug name. It's Cardarine, also known by the proper name of GW501516. It's not an SARM, selective android receptor modulator. Rather, it's a... Okay, so basically what this is
English.
Yeah.
Because you said android receptor, and I'm like, what? We're talking about robots here?
So what this means is that the activity in the gene is changed, causing it to shift to a low energy, causing it to shift how low energy is put out. This translates into an ability to push harder and longer when it comes to endurance without becoming winded. So Big Baby Miller's a fat guy.
Yeah, you were showing me a picture.
So yeah,
before we started.
Yeah, Big Baby Miller's a fat guy. This is a perfect pairing for the type of drug. From what I've read, I'm by no means
like an EPO. It sounds like an EPO.
It sounds like something like that, but I think EPO is a specific, different drug. But this is something one would use in training to get more out of the training. It's not an anabolic steroid. It's not to build muscle. It's not that kind. But it is a performance-enhancing drug that one uses to trick the body into getting more output.
See, what's the difference between that and caffeine? Why is caffeine not banned? Can't that arguably get more out of your system?
Because God made it.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't know. I don't know. But
I mean, that's what I've always wondered. Where is the line being drawn? Because
no. I think
EPOs are harmful to your health, right? You can actually die. So there's a reason why they would say
no. Caffeine is not banned because
it's a profitable industry.
It's very profitable. The great thing about caffeine, if you want to get into business, pick a drug that people are chemically addicted to, happens to taste good, and you're set. But I don't know. Why is alcohol and tobacco are more harmful than marijuana, and why are those legal and not?
I don't know. That's my question.
I don't know.
Because it's like, it's during training. Imagine if there was a training time where you can have steroids with training, and then you can, you have to be off by this date. And, if you're still on steroids.
It's also not fair that in the sport of boxing, as we all know, it's a sport for the poor people. It's a sport where people have the opportunity to rise from like the lowest, ladders of society. And they're doing that without drugs. So it would be a shame to see in boxing one of the.
But when you start getting drug tested,
in high level fights,
like
you're not drug tested.
In your two fights that you had, your two professional fights, did you get drug tested once?
No.
Like at any point?
No.
Why is that?
Because I don't think there's the resources to test the guys who are fighting for $800.
So. You were telling me a story once about getting shot, not getting shot, but being asked to get shot in the ass about it. So if you would have taken the person up on it, you wouldn't have been tested on it, and potentially,
I would have gotten away with that for a long time.
You could have been 2-0 right now. No, I'm serious.
Oh, bro, if I was getting shot in the ass, I'd be 15-0 by now.
But if you get 10-0, 12-0, 13-0, and you stop
and you wane off.
Because you're like, okay, I position because it's like,
that might be happening.
Wouldn't it be like the equivalent of like, I want to start an Instagram page, so I'm gonna hire like a big titty models to come and like be all over my page to capture attention, and then you get the followers or whatever, and then you stop using that to show your. I'm not saying it's the right way, but how many of these poor people, quote unquote, that you're talking about?
It's like hiring a consultant to grow your page or whatever.
And if you stop beforehand, if no one's regulating,
so that could be happening, Daniel. That's it's possible that is happening. That people in the smaller shows are using drugs.
Do you think that's why maybe you were offered it? Because that's how people start.
I was offered that shit in the amateurs.
That's my point.
Yeah,
I know.
It's out there, man. It's happening.
Yes, and it's because who are you?
I'm not gonna tell you who offered it to me, but people are getting shot in the ass in the side room of a gym that I was in. I didn't want to do it because too much guilt, and also I didn't feel like I would have felt cheapened because
where are those people that have done it?
Sorry?
Where are the people who did it? Like the people who did that
day? Nowhere.
So they didn't benefit from it then either, huh? Like career-wise?
I'll be honest with you. The guy who was doing it is such a dumb fuck that I'm not even sure. He might have been putting. It might have not even been good
steroids?
shit. Who knows what it was?
But it was a needle. But my point in bringing all this up is you're talking about the low people coming up.
Yeah.
And you experienced it firsthand.
But here's what I would say is that.
And you weren't going to Beverly Hills gym.
No.
You were going to the same gyms that the lower class people were going to, right?
Okay, but what I want to talk about, like it would be what I'm trying to say with that. It'd be a shame if drugs were made legal because everyone can do them to advance in sport, and the fighters I'm trying to think of. It doesn't matter. An American or a British fighter who has resources behind them is using drugs to train, to get an edge in training, not necessarily steroids, but just using performance enhancers that make you last longer, give you more oxygen in your blood cells, whatever. And then the poor guy from Colombia or the Philippines or Peru who's training with the indigenous people or running around and whatever, he comes to fight in the U.S. and he doesn't ever get the chance to become, the rags to riches story. It would be a shame.
But isn't that the story anyway? Like, regardless? Anthony Joshua's training is better than anyone's training coming up in the boxing world.
What I'm saying is that, like, there's one argument.
And it also sounds like it's not the boxers who are responsible for these PEDs and whatever. It sounds like it's the trainers.
Yeah, probably. There's probably always someone that's introducing them to these things. I don't know. Yeah.
Like, another boxer didn't come up to you and say, "Hey, Gary, do you want me to shoot you in the ass?" Right?
No, not in this case. No.
It was a trainer.
Right.
I'm sure Baby was like, someone came to him with it, as opposed to like, yeah, you know what I need? I need some steroids. Can you guys get on that? Can you find them for me?
Yeah, he started Googling.
I mean, because
steroids to help me.
Do you feel like it's a problem in the business, in the boxing world? Steroids.
I actually don't think, I may be naive, but I actually don't think it's as big in boxing as other sports.
Well, I'm just talking about boxing specifically. So you think this is a rare case of steroids as opposed to like a growing problem?
It may become bigger when you get to the upper echelons of the sport, where money's involved. But I don't think it's that
the sport?
I don't think it's that big for... I mean, it's hard to say now because you kind of already brought up the instance that I was offered it as an amateur, but I don't think it's that big in boxing. Maybe I'm just naive and maybe I'm trying to preserve some dignity, but I don't think it's that huge in boxing. Whereas, as far as, like, it's not as big as in the 2000s in baseball,
Maybe. But you just said you didn't get tested in your 2 fights. Like, how many fights would you have to be to start even...
I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure when they start testing.
Like, that's a question...
I had a blood test for my debut, but I believe the blood test is to see if you have AIDS. But in that second fight, I wasn't blood tested because it would stink if I got AIDS in between.
I was gonna say
between my first one and my second one, but they don't blood test you every single time, so.
Well, that's what I'm kind of like. That'd be an interesting question. I feel like you could have asked previous guests, like, how often are you guys tested for steroids?
Yeah.
How often? Not to say that they're on them.
No, yeah.
But like how? Because you need to get a consensus going, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't know how often you're being tested, and maybe none of these people who are fighting for PBC or whatever, they're not being tested either, maybe. And if no one's testing it, it's still the wild, wild west.
There is and I apologize for not having too much of a prep for this conversation, but there is a voluntary testing kind of certification. And
voluntary testing?
Guys like Nonito Donaire, or Donaire, however you say his name, Filipino Flash. Guys like Caleb Truax. I remember Chris Audrey. Remember there was a campaign or a push of guys doing this testing and being certified. Also, there is a level of there is an anti-doping agency that's doing for these world championship fights. But you were asking me about the small shows.
I know. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, UFC is obviously UFC, and then there's
they obviously caught him, so they are doing testing. They caught Baby Miller
for he's fighting Joshua.
For GW 50.
I mean, how do you know that Joshua's team didn't make him get tested because of that? Like, how many times do you think Canelo or Triple G got tested? I mean, why do you think Canelo got popped?
Canelo for the carne?
No, yeah. I mean, I'm just...
Competing carne distributor was...
That's what it was. That's all it was. We all know that.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
So I'm going to read this tweet from Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing, the promoter of Anthony Joshua. And this tweet was on the 16th of April. So when the news broke, we have been informed by VADA, the ADA, that there has been an adverse finding in Gerald Miller's sample collected on March 20th. So they held on to that sample for a while. So I'm sure it's accurate, is what I mean.
March 20th, so a month ago.
So a month ago is when he pissed, and then, or maybe it was blood, I'm not sure. But that was it. The results were taken a month ago. We are working with all relevant parties and will update on more details soon. AJ's preparation continues for June 1st at MSG. Sorry, it was at Madison Square Garden. I thought it was at Barclays.
So it's even bigger. It's a bigger fight.
Yeah, and yeah.
What was the tweet? What did he say? That he's working with all parties.
That he's working with all parties. The preparation continues.
Who else has tweeted about? Oh,
and also, what I want to say is, VADA is doing testing on these levels, and VADA is when I get results for WADA, which is World Anti-Doping Agency, which I'm familiar with from prior. I don't know. His tweet had VAWA, so I'm not sure.
What are other people saying about this, though? What are other people in the boxing community saying about this?
A lot of
disappointed, or
a lot of chirps from the cheap seats. But they have every right to be disappointed.
Has Joshua said anything about it?
I'm gonna look at.
Or Baby, has Baby Face, or whatever his name is.
Big Baby Miller.
Baby Titties. Is that what it is? I mean, does he say sorry? Do people say like I'm ashamed of myself, or like?
Big Baby Miller makes a statement on Instagram. And this was yesterday. So this is probably on the 16th, somewhere in the range of 17th of April. I want to thank all my supporters who have stood by me since day one, and especially during this extremely difficult time. I have not been tuned into social media and any other media outlets to focus and channel all my energies into working hard with no distractions. I'm absolutely devastated upon hearing the news my boxing license has been revoked by New York State, and I will be vigorously appealing to the decision. I have never knowingly taken any banned substances, and I found out the news last night as I was totally shocked. My team and I stand for integrity, decency, and honesty, and together we'll stand to fight this with everything we have. This was a voluntary test that I was very happy to do. And these results came in 1 week after another voluntary test that I've taken, which was completely clean. I refuse to just lie down and let the dream be taken away from me when I know in my heart that I've done nothing wrong. 15 years of hard work, I'm a warrior. I do not need a banned substance. Remember, don't believe everything you hear and see. The facts will prevail and I shall be vindicated. I don't have anything to hide, and the truth will make itself known. Is what he said yesterday.
See, I don't know. I don't have any any horse in the race. I don't have any horse in the race, so I don't know. He could be telling the truth. The issue is, though, once it's out there, he's a steroid user, regardless, right? Because in the UFC world, that's how it is. Doesn't matter if it's like a tainted supplement or not. Once you've been tainted with that, it's pretty much. I mean, the biggest case in the UFC is John Jones.
Oh yeah.
That's like with the picograms and all these other things you talk about with his substance, blah blah blah, And just recently they had their champion get literally suspended for 2 years. TJ Dillashaw. He for EPO specifically though, like that was like ruled out, like injectable EPO. And he relinquished his belt before it came out. He like accepted everything. His team stood behind him and stuff. So, but
TJ Dillashaw used to beef it out with Tank Davis, Gervonta Davis, who is all over Twitter, calling everyone out. But I do remember the two of them saying that they were gonna fight. It's just kind of
that would be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Maybe he can do it now that he's suspended.
Now
on Indian reservation.
They could. Yeah, they can go. They can go to wherever the hell, whichever state is allowing that bare knuckle fighting.
Which is crazy. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Are you gonna watch Paulie fight bare knuckle?
Is that actually gonna happen?
Yeah.
Dude, that's not a good idea for him. He's a slick boxer.
Well, he thinks he's gonna mess someone up. Because he has that mentality.
He's not that
Before
guy.
we started talking about the podcast, we were talking about how I was saying that most UFC fighters, UFC, not MMA, most UFC fighters who are signed on their roster could probably fuck up 95 or 90% of the boxing talent pool in an MMA.
In an MMA, sure.
So, like, he probably has this.
But also,
But you were saying
they're both. So who is he gonna fight?
I don't know. You have to look it up.
I'll
look it up.
I seen he got challenged by I think some former MMA mixed martial artist who may be kind of in a little bit of a twilight stage of his career, but what would be interesting about that?
Anyone who's fighting in bare knuckle boxing is not relevant in the MMA world anymore, and that's not to shit on their talent or anything.
That's how economics works.
Right.
It's like if you're going to this show, it's because
there's
that's
no
where
you are in your career.
Big ticket, offers at the other.
Artem Lobov. That's who he's fighting.
Was he the guy who just fought on the last big show? Because I've actually been following that bare knuckle fighting championship on Instagram since the second show.
He did just fight, and
recently they blew up because this former UFC guy was on it, and that show is the one that kind of has gotten a lot more attention. But I haven't. I remember seeing
he just recently fought, and he got his face is just all of them. They look so just brutalized. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Like their faces look like they got smashed in. Which, if you're into that stuff, that's what they like. People like that. So, but what would you watch that though? That's what I was curious.
I would watch it.
You'd watch it?
I've almost just forget to, because attention is hard to come by sometimes. Like I said, I've been tuned to their Instagram page since the second show. Like they've had maybe 5 or 6 shows, that promotion company doing the bare knuckle fighting thing, and I've almost bought the little online stream a couple of times.
Their pay-per-views. Yeah,
it's an online pay-per-view stream, and I just I need to be reminded. But if Paulie Malignaggi was on it, I would end up buying it. I would.
Would he be the favorite?
I have no idea. I really have no idea.
Well, that's what's great about it. So you don't have those gloves anymore.
Yeah. So this Art Lobov, who I don't know much about.
Lobov. He got released from the UFC this year. He was a part of the Conor McGregor brawl.
If Paulie was challenging him to some sort of mixed martial arts contest, no question, I would say
10 times out of 10.
10 times out of 10, Lobov wins. The fact that now it's bare knuckle boxing, which neither one of them have done,
right? That
we've seen, it's who knows. But the reason why I don't want to see Paulie do it is because I like the guy, and I don't ever think he was that kind of fighter. Like, he was not the brutal knockout guy. He was a slick boxer. You know how sometimes on the show, Daniel, we say boxer or fighter, or you need to box him or you need to fight him, or he's not fighting. I need to just stop fighting. I need to just start boxing. It sounds like to the
it's technique.
Naive,
no, I know. I know what you're saying. It's technique.
Like, he's a boxer. Like, power to him for being like Trevor makes fun of me for being too in love with being okay with taking hits and wanting to be a fighter. He's like, you should be a boxer. Paulie Malignaggi is one of the guys that is sweet science.
Well, clearly that's why Conor wanted him as a sparring partner and everything.
Partner, yeah.
I mean, all the other stuff aside, but obviously, obviously Conor has money. He's going to go after people.
Yeah. And also, it presents a good opportunity because,
I would pay to watch Conor and Paulie
Malignaggi's retired, so it's I'm also going to get a few more touches on him. Paulie in his prime, I'm not gonna have it, but Conor likes the ego boost of
course of destroying champions,
So it's good to pick a guy who's already retired but will come help you spar.
Well, what did you think about I don't know if you heard about what the boss or the CEO of bare knuckle boxing was saying?
No, I haven't.
So it was on this last card with I think Artem Lobov was fighting on, and it wasn't on his fight, but there was a fight where there was no action, and he announced to the crowd that he was taking 40% of the purses from both fighters because this is this is an action sport and we demand action here, and then
That's terrible.
He retracted his statement a few days later because he was like, no, I was just saying that to hype people up because, you know, the fights that happened after that were all exciting or whatever and blah, blah, blah. So if you're...
Yeah, it sounds like this league's not going to be around much longer. I think we're in financial troubles.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, you know, because you want to be a promoter.
I do, yeah.
Would you ever take someone's
Hell
purse
no,
away for not fighting?
That's evil, dude.
Or for stepping in the ring or whatever they're fighting in, and then
the second the bell rings, the second they start fighting, you owe them the money you signed a contract for. I mean, first of all, he was probably just saying that off the cuff.
That's what he said.
You can't unwind that
contract, right?
They're fighting. Unless there's some sort of clause. There wouldn't be some sort of clause saying that, like, if I'm dissatisfied, I'm gonna.
No, I know, but I'm not saying legally that's what happened. No. But as a promoter, would you even toy with that idea?
Never would toy with that idea. Because what happens is if the guy doesn't produce a good show, he just doesn't get invited back. But you would never take the money away from the guy who risks his life to entertain us. And guess what? He's an athlete. Him not being entertaining isn't necessarily his prerogative. His prerogative is winning and surviving. So
yeah, and you see that
if he found a way to win or survive that didn't tickle your fancy, it doesn't matter. He
like every time Floyd Mayweather fights.
Not every time Floyd Mayweather fights. That upsets me when people say that.
No,
recent Floyd Mayweather.
Yes.
Recent Floyd Mayweather is a genius, brilliant boxer. So. Recent Floyd Mayweather isn't there to entertain you and knock you out.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm
agreeing with you, and you're getting triggered. I'm agreeing
I'm
with
getting
you.
triggered.
I'm saying that he's boxing.
No, I just want to say every time because Floyd used to get down throwing putazos when he was younger. But
well, yeah, I'm sure.
Relatively speaking.
And then he realized that he was the money.
When you can economically...
Money Mayweather, and I just need to win by any means necessary without cheating. And if that means just, you know,
so we talked about the difference between being a fighter and a boxer. Daniel, if I had the ability to slip punches,
I know he's a good example of
like
that.
Paulie Malignaggi, would I try to be?
No.
Would I be trying to be Arturo Geiger right now?
Floyd Mayweather gained my respect during
blood hungry
when he fought Canelo. Because I'd watched Canelo pretty much not since birth, but for a while. Like he was one of the few fighters.
When he came to America, sure.
When I started following him, and I'm like, because I was dating a Mexican girl at the time.
Oh yeah.
And you're just, you know, when it's
a
a boxing family,
when you're at the carne asada, you better be.
It's either like they're Manny Pacquiao and Canelo. Like those are the two huge stars in that household. So like I was watching all their fights for a while. Anyway. And you know, so you just see Canelo just fucking everybody up, right? Before Floyd, and then you think.
I'm trying to remember who were big because that was a couple. I'm trying to remember who were the big names.
Well, he was knocking people out. You know, he was very like flashy and entertaining, which is why everyone loves him. And so when he was gonna fight Floyd, I was like, oh shit, this might be the chance where he loses. And then for 12 rounds, Floyd literally works him, where it was like no matter what Canelo did. He wasn't landing anything. He was getting out of the way.
Floyd made Canelo look like a very basic fighter.
There was no holding per se, but it was just a lot of there's nothing he could do. And so it was after that fight where I was like, wow, he got worked. He got outboxed. Pure and plain and simple.
Absolutely.
Because like my first Floyd fight that I remember was him fighting De La Hoya. And I remember I was younger.
You showed up when the party was over. If we're talking about like
I watched the whole fight.
No. What I mean is, if we're talking about
the Floyd that you're talking about,
young Floyd, gone. You came.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I said all the time. That's my experience.
But that's where all the Floyd haters, who don't know shit about boxing, that's when they all found out who Floyd was. Very late in the game.
That's what put him on the map.
No. Don't say that winning over Bill and Tom's approval is being put on the map. Just because that's when you tuned in doesn't mean that's
when
he was champion for so many years.
You can be
multiple weight classes.
So is Deontay Wilder, but tell me how many people knew about him before this Tyson Fury fight? And you're into boxing, normal people. I'm serious.
Yeah, I just don't like that.
Isn't that the reality with Tyson Fury? All right, Deontay Wilder, excuse me.
And people watched Ortiz fight. People watched his people definitely watch the Berbain-Cervane fight, but Berbain-Taverne fight.
How long has he been champion, Deontay?
I don't know, like 5 years maybe?
Okay.
Look it up.
And when was Luis Ortiz? Last year?
Last year, I think.
Okay, so what? The last 2 years, people have been knowing about this guy who's been knocking people out since forever? I'm not saying that he's a bad fighter. Any of these boxers in the world could fuck me up in half a second. You put me in the ring, I'll knock myself out. I'll just fall on the ground and just give up. There's just no way. But I'm saying, in terms of, I feel like I'm a good example of someone who follows boxing enough to know who's in and out, but not enough to know who the stars are, right?
Yeah.
Now it's different. Now
You're one step removed from like a fight fan and like just a mainstream guy that only has Sports Center.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
But I'm saying
You're in between. And I think you're in between is the fact that you like MMA and you have critiques of boxing. So therefore, to back up your critiques of boxing.
I grew up on boxing because MMA wasn't a thing. UFC wasn't a
thing.
But
what I would say, what I've observed about you, to hold your critiques, you do a little bit of homework, and therefore you know a little bit more than the guy. You're not one step.
You can't sound 100% stupid all the time.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
But Deontay was. My point is though, Deontay was a nobody. I feel like
he won the bronze medal in the Olympics.
But in terms of audience recognition, he was until this Tyson. So you would argue that Tyson Fury, that fight didn't put him on the map, on the main stage.
It put him on some people's map that weren't already there.
If he didn't fight Tyson Fury, would he have had a $125 million deal, or whatever the deal he ended up making was?
I don't know what deal he ended up making, to be honest with you.
Let's just say it was $100 million just to make, because he has some deal for three fights, right?
He would actually, so he would have still have been making huge money, yeah, because
so then I'm wrong.
He's a Al Heyman guy. He's been fighting on Showtime. He would have had some large deal already going on with Showtime. That fight was on Showtime. Like that was a pay-per-view fight on Showtime. So
I know.
I know what you mean.
But Tyson Fury is really the main reason why that fight sold, I feel like. Because of his story. And people are like, oh my God, 4 years, look at this fat fuck. Look at him back in the ring. Like, because that's what it was.
It brings new people to the table,
when you were on my podcast, not to cut you off, but when you were on my podcast, this is like 2 or 3 years ago, and we were talking about, I think it was Triple G Canelo, the first fight. I think that's why.
No, it was Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor, wasn't it?
Okay, so maybe it was. Maybe it was. Let's just assume it was.
Ago.
So that was at least 2 years ago, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Tyson was still fat fuck at that point, but there was speculation, and I remember you and Gian were talking about it, my co-host, talking about them like potentially coming back and fighting Deontay, and you guys were all excited, like, oh man, you guys. My point is though, Tyson was the anchor to all that, because you guys liked Tyson because of what Tyson did before he retired, right?
Yeah, when he beat.
I don't remember my point in all this anymore, but
when he beat Vladimir Klitschko, that was crazy, you know.
Because he hadn't lost in however
we
many
just
years.
Watched an era of, you know, Vladimir owning the division.
And he went away.
Basically. And he went away, and as we know, he fell off the cliff for the depression and the
so to see
fight
him
fell apart.
So to see him come back and then to fight the King or whatever his nickname is, Deontay's.
The Bronze Bomber?
Bomber, there you go. I don't know why I said the King. Because he wears a crown, right?
He wore some crown or something. It was cool.
But just have him fight the champion again, today's champion of the same weight class, right? The same everything, right? That's how Deontay has his stuff.
Deontay owns the WBC belt. Joshua has the other belts.
Oh, so he got relinquished and Joshua took the other belts?
No. They haven't fought each other yet. Like, bro, dude.
Well, what belts?
This is good. All right, so
fuck belts. That's what I'm saying. That's 15 belts.
That's why I call it the alpha belt soup. It's just like.
What belt did Fury have?
Fury didn't have a belt, my friend.
I thought he got a belt from Klitschko.
So he retired, and those belts were vacated.
What belt did he have though?
No belts. He had a concept called the lineal champion, and that is simply
he beat
the man who beat the man. So the last time that there was an undisputed champion whoever beats him is the lineal champion. Okay, those belts could end up falling into other pockets of other places of the world, but that lineal champion gets beaten by somebody, that guy's the lineal champion.
With no belt.
With no belt.
Because you don't want to pay for
This is like more of a concept. This is more of a concept that is something that like historically, it's like a boxing writer's.
It's pretentious boxing facts, right?
Yes, boxing writers keep record of this kind of thing, and it's a story piece, and it's something. There's no belt for lineal.
I get it.
It's like a concept.
It's like when you watch a movie and you have like some art fartsy guy who like analyzes such and such, and it was like, well, this did this, and this is executed this way.
Maybe, yeah.
Because it's for boxing people.
Yeah. It's like, you know what it's like? It's like back in the day when the college football, we're lucky now there's finally a playoff, a 14 playoff for the last several years. But there used to be a time where there was a time where it just finished with an AP poll, and whoever was first in the poll at the end would be crowned the champion by the writers. And then there was also another poll, there was the coaches poll, and sometimes that poll had a different number one at the end of the season, and sometimes there was dispute on who finished the year as the champion. We had no way of knowing. And then eventually the BCS came around, that kind of held more the Bowl Championship Series, and that held some sort of distinction on prestige of who would be the champion. But do you remember there were some years where the AP poll number one would end up being someone different than whoever won that BCS title game?
No, I don't remember.
So there would be years.
But I know exactly what you're talking about. But
there would be years where there'd be a finisher in the poll, in the AP poll,
right? That
was a different number one finisher than who most people thought the BCS champion was. I don't know, like. In our lifetime, there was a year that USC claimed a share of the championship, and there was a SEC team who claimed a share of the championship. Or maybe it wasn't SEC, but it was a team from the South that declared a share because one had the bowl win and one had the poll
critics win. Or whatever.
Whatever, yeah. So basically, it's essentially the lineal champion is essentially the writers holding on to their historically consensus of something. It's a story of a champion.
I have a solution.
Yeah.
You take the money belt.
That
Floyd won by beating Conor McGregor. That like studded out belt.
Yeah, that's just a money grab by the WBC to get a share. Yeah.
And you make that the belt.
The only belt, one belt.
And every time you win, you add like more diamonds, and you just keep getting it studded.
Do you know that's how it started? What? Like 100 years ago, essentially.
What, one belt?
There was one belt for, I want to say it was John L. Sullivan.
I'm just saying, you could take a picture with this nice belt. You can't sell it, but it just keeps getting more and more valuable. Then you walk around with a $1 billion belt, and you have to fight every 6 months. Otherwise, they take that belt.
So John L. Sullivan was the first heavyweight champion in boxing as it became with gloves,
I'd love to see him fight any modern heavyweight, and just to see how fucked up he would get.
As a modern, he would be like as far as like body types.
He'd be like white people in the NBA prior to black people joining the league.
No, he would be like, to be fair, he would be like probably like a 175 pounder,
I know, because they were all small back then.
Yeah.
But also, there's no training like there was now. There's no strength and conditioning. That's what I'm saying. He'd be like white people playing the NBA in like the 60s before black people started coming and taking over.
Or like...
That's what it would be like.
Yeah.
I mean, because just imagine... Because you ever watch old footage of NBA games of how like
athletic they were?
Yeah, I mean, that's not what I was going to say, but just how non-NBA...
Everything progresses, though. Every sport's like that, right?
It does. Which is why I feel like, maybe put some steroids in people's asses.
Okay, so...
create some super freaks.
Well, then that's not fair, because then the ones with resources have the ability. Then white people might be in the NBA games, because the ones with resources would have the ability to do so.
There you go.
And fewer, less resourced kids would have the...
My argument would be something that I don't think you'd find appropriate on this podcast.
That's fine.
So I'll leave
then don't say it. But what I was going to say was that I don't think that drugs is the answer to making sports better, but
I don't think so either.
Okay.
At all, I don't.
I
do think that there's a lot of money involved in this sport, because that's the one thing you keep saying when money gets involved, because it's prize fighting.
Yeah, it's prize.
So there's always going to be this level of corruption, I feel like, and it's tough because there's no like. I personally foresee DAZN growing and maybe becoming a UFC. I really do. I know that's like out there in crazy talk land, because boxing has never been under one umbrella.
Yeah.
It's just been boxing and under promoters and promotions, but
I don't see that happening, but I like your optimism.
Why wouldn't it?
One brand. Too much politics.
Everybody
Too much
loves
politics,
DAZN
man.
though.
Do they?
Name me another program that's taken.
Does Al Heyman love it?
But do the fans love it?
But who has power right now?
Al Heyman's gonna die at some point, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. But why do you want to be a promoter? Do you want to be it because you want to make money, or do you care about the sport of boxing?
I'm gonna make money other ways, actually. So
I'm asking you though.
I love boxing.
Yeah. See. So wouldn't you want to help create like a stable of fighters that you can help promote under the guise of someone else? So you don't have to worry about A side, B side, whatever, all this other politics. You just let people fight. Kind of like the UFC.
You know what I'm
too
going?
Outlandish.
It's too outlandish. But you know what I am going to do? Someday I want to, and I'm just saying what I'm going to make attempts at. So it's not like I'm not making some bold statement of a claim I will make done, but I'm gonna be a promoter someday, at some scale, and I have a vision of bringing boxing to Amazon Prime. So whatever that takes, as far as if it's a show, if it's a
how do you know DAZN's not working with that right now?
Or how do you know
they're
different?
How do you know Jeff Bezos is not like, you know what? I made $100 billion this
Jeff,
month.
if you're looking for a promoter, I'll have a pitch deck ready for you. You're not okay.
Because I mean, it's only a matter of
it's only a matter of time. Yeah.
Because
exactly.
look at what
and
ESPN is doing with UFC. Look what ESPN's doing with Top Rank. They're I mean, UFC's keeping that pay-per-view model in terms of like, but it's still all ESPN. It's all digital. So all these, there's pay-per-view's dead. And where do promoters make their money off of, in my opinion? Pay-per-views.
You're right, dude.
So these guys are already going off to like,
and I'm on board, dude. I bought DAZN.
That's what I'm saying.
I love it.
And how many people do you know criticize DAZN for what it stands for? Maybe the service might suck. Maybe it might drop. Maybe the quality.
I'm good with it. I like it. Yeah.
Would you go back?
No, I wouldn't go back.
Proves my point.
No, you're right, and I agree with you. I was just saying that
I'm being far-sighted. Don't get me wrong.
I want to. The whole comment about Amazon, that was only to the fact of, betting big on Titans that are already winning the game, as far as like collaboration goes. Like, without a doubt, there will be a day when there's like 3 companies left in the world. These conglomerates will absorb everyone else, and Amazon is going to be the last company in the world, or one of those last few in this system that we eventually arrived at someday. All I was saying was that they're doing a great job getting into streaming content, into
absolutely
sports. We know they signed a huge NFL deal to have a bunch of Thursday night games. Amazon as a company loves going into somebody else's sandbox and just fucking everything up.
And the reason why is so they can get their subscribers. All they care about is you subscribe to their Prime. So
all I'm saying is that if Amazon ever wants to go into boxing, they're ripe to do it. The sport's ripe for disruption, as we know.
Oh, they would take over.
So
they threw $1 billion at the sport.
They have the money to spend. That's a
They could
whole
start
other
a league,
discussion.
boxing league.
As far as Amazon being a company that doesn't necessarily need to look at profit first, they just look at hyper growth. Like it's amazing the amount of money they spend on taking in new business lines. But if you want to, Jeff, go into boxing, I think you'll take over. So you're gonna need somebody to peddle the flesh, as we said last week. So I'm trying to. There's a future. I think, Daniel, all I'm saying is there's a future in the streaming model. We have.
I think streaming is the future. I think that's the difference.
It's already present.
It's
actually
it is what's going on.
So thank God, death to pay-per-view. I hated it. DAZN's doing well. ESPN Plus is a good streaming model. Is doing well. We're there. Amazon, if you'd like to get involved, you're gonna also
or Netflix
smash
or any of these people
or Netflix. Yeah.
I
don't know if live is more they're more of a narrative model, but hey, I got a good show pitch idea for Netflix too. If you want to do more of a narrative model,
I'm saying maybe
Daniel,
Netflix,
you're a producer. We're gonna play.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So anyway, I got on a long tangent about the business aspect and the future streaming model, but
maybe you can talk to Trevor about this next.
We're gonna talk about we'll follow up with Trevor again next week.
See what he has to say.
See what he has to say about the Jarrell Miller case, about the last few tangents, and I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Trevor sends his love. We would love you to subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I would also love you to put a review in on iTunes. That's one way to really help grow the show. I used to not want to mention it, but now that I feel like we've done 12 episodes, it's time to mention it. If you're enjoying it, please let us know, and that'll help other people see the show. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.